This is episode 1163.
I think you have to lead from the top, and that's happening in our company. And we have to find the things that are going to be the most meaningful, certainly in my accounting and finance world, but more broadly across the company, to provide business insight. Is it going to help us increase sales? Is it going to help us drive revenue or get to revenue more quickly? Is it going to help us, deliver product enhancements more quickly and with better quality, less bugs, things like that. So, but there's also more simple things like, when you need to write a policy, an accounting policy, for your allowance for doubtful accounts. It's amazing how much you can get done just by using the prompts in AI and telling it about yourself and your company, and all of that stuff saves you time as well. So there are a lot of places that we're going to be looking to use the AI tools that are available to us, and we just have to decide where we're going to get the most bang for our buck, so to speak.
The CFO role used to be about reporting the past. Today, it's about shaping the future, often in real time. And nowhere is that more evident than in industries where data is massive, complex, and mission critical. Clinical trials are one of those arenas. What happens when a finance leader steps into that environment and decides that AI isn't just a tool, but a filter for strategic focus? What changes when the CFO becomes the internal compass for separating transformation from distraction? We explore those questions in this conversation, recorded when we caught up with CFO Sue Vestri last week at NetSuite's Suite Connect conference in New York City, where we found finance leaders discussing the latest AI capabilities shaping the CFO agenda. We'll begin after this.
They say do what you love and the money will follow. My passion for making life beautiful led to a successful design firm, booming online sales, and a TV show. It also led to chaos, endless spreadsheets, and no single source of truth. We couldn't scale, so we chose NetSuite by Oracle. Now I get immediate visibility across the business, from revenue to customers and fulfillment. Clean, simple, beautiful. NetSuite is critical to the success of my business.
Hey, it's Jack with a quick production note. When we recorded this interview, we had one camera and about 90 seconds to set it up, so we pointed it where it mattered most. At CFO Sue Vestri, you'll hear me, but today the spotlight belongs entirely to Sue. I say, hello, CFO Sue Vestri is back with us. Sue's career spans the volatility of the dot-com era, the rigor of private equity, and the enterprise scale of M&A, including guiding finance leadership at Boomi during its acquisition by Dell. She later served as a long-tenured CFO at Greenphire, helping shape growth in the clinical trial technology space. Today, as CFO of CRIO, she is focused on transforming site-centric clinical workflows while balancing innovation, automation, and disciplined execution. Sue, welcome back to the podcast.
Nice to be here. Thanks, Jack.
So I have to say you've had a few CFO tours of duty now, but since you first entered or first took the seat, let's say, tell us something about being a CFO. What's changed, maybe?
Oh, my goodness. It has come so far since the days of sitting behind a desk in a corner and just producing numbers and financial statements. I've always been a very operational CFO, but that's kind of unusual. And I think that is what is growing more and more now. We don't just sit around and produce financial statements. So we are, like me and my team, we're very integral and incorporated into the business. I like to have my finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. I'm not an engineer or developer, but I do pay attention to what's the product team and the engineering team are doing. Operations, obviously, very close working relationship with them and a very strong partnership with the CEOs. And we have an interesting dynamic at CRIO because we actually have two CEOs. Did I say CFOs? I think I did. Anyway, we have co-CEOs.
Yeah.
And so it creates an interesting dynamic for me because we have to make sure that everybody is staying informed on the same page, that we're always in sync. And now, the what's being asked of the CFO and the finance team and my resources is so much more with analytics and looking deeper into the business, and trying to surface trends and industry things that are going on. It's just evolved tremendously.
Well, we have a number of questions we want to ask you about CRIO, but before we do, you had a 7-year tenure at Greenphire. Can you help us understand the business you joined and the business chapter you closed there?
Yeah.
How big was this business? Give us a sense.
Yeah, the business was, I think I was probably employee 72 or something when I joined Greenphire, and very low double-digit revenue, barely break even, founder led company. So I came to Greenphire after it was acquired by a private equity firm, and they believed in the growth prospect for Greenphire, and we really did a good job for them and the investors, I'll say.
Had you worked closely with private equity before?
I actually had not. That was the first time I had worked with private equity. My companies prior to that were venture capital backed primarily. And so it was a little new for me, learning the ways of private equity and the demands that has on the role. It became very obvious to me very quickly that the first thing I needed to do was find a very good financial partner, a financial analyst, because there's so many things that we're looking into. And Greenphire was on a journey of, they were known, they had a particular niche, everybody knew them for that, and they wanted to expand beyond that. So I went through a very, very strong growth phase with them. Their client base changed from selling to clinical sites to selling to big pharma companies. We went from being a US-based company to being a global company, doing business in multi-currency and building the team in all ways, to the point where it's worth mentioning actually that we had a interesting times then during the time I was at CRIO. Of course, COVID happened.
Oh, that's right.
And we had the privilege of supporting the clinical trial for Pfizer actually during that time, and we were so busy, incredibly busy. And for not good reasons, the company really exploded because it was there's just a lot going on and continued to grow. So our private equity firm actually held on to us a little bit longer than they might normally, because we were experiencing tremendous growth. And yeah, so we went through an exit with that private equity firm. There was a tremendous amount of interest in the company. It was exhausting. I think the CEO and I did, 20, 30 presentations to companies, and we did this all remotely because of COVID. So that was also an interesting thing, which has now become a thing. Like you do everything now like via video. So we went through that transition, and our new private equity owner was successful in the bid for Greenphire, and I stayed with that private equity firm as well for probably about a year and a half. And at this point, the company is very, very big. It's grown to close to 3-digit revenue, numbers, and I really liked the journey of the growth phase of the company. I was happy to hand off to a CFO rather, that wanted to kind of do the big company CFO thing. And and so that was when I transitioned to my next role.
Which is, I have to say, you arrived at Greenphire from Boomi, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I had a short stop at a mobile software company, but I spent a lot of time at Boomi, yes.
You are now sort of a known entity inside clinical research technology, though.
Yeah.
That's what happened, really, in my way of looking at it. Greenphire for your career. And of course, that's what CRIO is all about.
Yes.
So we want to get to CRIO, but you have really established yourself here. And what was your learning curve there? Did clinical trials, was that something you really thought this is where I'm going to plant my flag? Right?
No, actually it wasn't. And going at Boomi, as you know, is an integration company, which was also an amazing journey. But no, I knew literally nothing about the clinical trial space. What appealed to me about the company, though, was that it was in the clinical trial space. I think in some way that touches everyone. Everybody knows somebody that's been touched by something that a clinical trial probably supported a drug coming to market or a cure for. I literally spent the entire first day of my job with Greenphire in a conference room, learning all of the acronyms that they use in clinical trials. And there are many, 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 many. So I learned it. And then I had the sales team sat outside my door, and I heard the sales pitch over and over and over again, and listening to them talk about the product. And so not only did I learn the industry, but I also learned the kind of what it was we did and why it was so important. And then I also had the benefit of a CEO coming on board who came from, just incredible depth in clinical research technology, and a willingness to mentor and teach, and having a willingness to learn. But no, I literally learned it. So
wow.
Yeah.
So that reinvention, and now this new chapter that you're opening at CRIO, which I'll mention, I didn't know this until I looked hard at Clinical Research IO, I guess is the full name, but we go with CRIO.
Yes.
Is that right? Tell us about this company, and again, the appetite for innovation in this space.
Yeah.
Give us some sense of it. What are the offerings? Why is this the opportunity for Sue Vestri?
Well, so clearly a company that was providing aid in the clinical research space was interesting to me. But one of the things that I learned in clinical research in general, there are so many manual processes, and they're slow to move. The pharma industry in general it's a little bit of a monolithic, shift to bring in new systems or think about new ideas. And so historically, clinical research sites are doing everything manually. They're writing things in journals. They are using spreadsheets, and what they're taking in is, patient information and information about these clinical trials that are going on. So CRIO was founded by someone who actually owned a clinical research site. So he saw firsthand what these people were going through in their day-to-day lives, and then literally thought to himself, there has to be a better way. And CRIO was born. So we're leading clinical trial platform for eSource data. So think of anything that you would need to have to absorb about a patient in a clinical trial. It could be medical records or visit information or things like that, which is also heavily looked at by the people that are running the trial. They want to make sure that data is accurate, that it's actually representing what's going on in the trial. So we provide an automated way to do that. So we basically take a lot of the administrative burden away from the clinical trial employees who are trying to actually, run this trial and aren't really a huge fan of administrative work that they're having to do. And it's giving them a high degree of data quality, which is also really important because that's needed for compliance and regulatory reasons as well. So it's hard for me to imagine the data that we absorb into our system to help them. I can't even imagine what it's like in an office that doesn't have that, with journals and binders and papers and things like that. So really transforming the way that a clinical research site works.
We usually will ask you some AI related questions a little later, but I think I want to jump ahead here because clinical trial date, we know, as you just described, is massive and complex. And, where is AI likely to reshape how companies like CRIO capture, validate, and extract what we're after, the insight.
Yeah. So just as a kind of a framing, so our company has really gone all in on AI and thinking about AI being an AI-centric company. We've empowered our entire team with licenses to an AI tool. So that's everybody from our developers who are using it to improve quality of code, and improve the speed at which we code and the capacity of things that they're able to do. But we are using it to leverage when you're talking about data specifically, because we're having to intake this data. We're getting often paper documents and forms and protocols that are, pages and pages and pages long, trying to decipher what we need out of that to actually make the software be effective. Yeah. And so we've already developed a tool that can, through AI, help us to go in and look at what are the things that we need and to get them into the system more quickly. So the level of not only accuracy that we're getting in the information that they're using, but also the elimination of hours and days, sometimes of time manually putting this information into systems. Even things with information access. So when users of our platform have questions, we're using AI through chat mechanisms to surface answers for them. We're actually starting to use it to provide translations. So you're talking to people in different languages. AI is incredibly helpful in being able to not only talk to people in different languages, but also the platform itself to be able to translate it into other languages. Whereas before we'd have to do these big projects with companies that did translations, and you'd have to make these major updates to your platforms and so forth. So we're trying to. There's a million things you can do with AI, and one of the things is it's the new shiny object, and we want everyone to use it. But we're trying to think about things that are really transformational for the business, things that are going to increase productivity, increase quality. And with the data aspect of it in particular, that's so critically important. And if you have a way to ensure through AI that data is good, and it goes even into the accounting aspect of things, through AI as well, like a lot of that data integrity, and leveraging AI just to, make sure that what you're absorbing is accurate, but then also downstream things with reporting and surfacing that data and giving you insights as well. So
just as you explained that, we want to make sure we're investing in things that are truly transformational here.
Yes.
You arrive in May 2024.
Yes.
You step into the role.
Yes.
A lot of this AI fever or mindset is with the company already. Your role as a CFO is to make sure you're making those wise investments. I'm wondering if you had to change your mindset in terms of resource allocation and these types of investments.
Yeah.
As a CFO in the past, you had some rigidity, perhaps.
Yeah.
Reflect on that.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And I would say even more so, like not so much even when I first got there. I think then it was even still kind of new, people were going to AI to ask questions and, test it out and things. But now it's, with the AI agents and things that you can build, like I'm really having to stop for a minute and think about the direction that we're going. And honestly, listening to some of the NetSuite presentation this morning and all of the things that are possible, sifting through it and figuring out what ones are going to be the most meaningful, and what the best way is to accomplish that particular goal using AI, because I don't think that there's one path. The other thing is getting people, besides myself, to want to embrace the change. And so I think you have to lead from the top, and that's happening in our company. And we have to find the things that are going to be the most meaningful, certainly in my accounting and finance world, but more broadly across the company, to provide business insight. Is it going to help us increase sales? Is it going to help us drive revenue or get to revenue more quickly? Is it going to help us, deliver product enhancements more quickly and with better quality, less bugs, things like that. So, but there's also more simple things like, when you need to write a policy, an accounting policy, for your allowance for doubtful accounts. It's amazing how much you can get done just by putting, using the prompts in AI and telling it about yourself and your company, and all of that stuff saves you time as well. So there are a lot of places that we're going to be looking to use the AI tools that are available to us, and we just have to decide where we're going to get the most bang for our buck, so to speak.
I'm wondering, given this mindset with AI, whether you as a CFO, you have found yourself over the last 18 months in meetings perhaps that you wouldn't have spent time with before, or perhaps you're reaching out to people and spending more time. If you were just to look at how you spent your week last week, it's surprising to you in some way. I don't know. Could you reflect? Has your role changed? Are you having connections with other parts of the organization you might not ordinarily?
Actually, yeah. So interestingly enough, a great example is this week. We have created kind of an internal tracker of AI, not every AI project that people are working on. Well, let me back up a minute. So we've created an AI champions program in our company, and we actually have a senior leader who is our chief innovation officer, who is an AI. No one's an expert, but he is very passionate about AI. So he's led an initiative to find a group of individuals within the organization that represent every department that are going to kind of be the champions for the rest of the people in the company. So it's some place that we can go if we have questions. They might be more expert than we are, but we're all collaborating on different ideas. So we've created an AI tracker, if you will. And so one of the things that we did this week with the leadership team, and there's several meetings about that, which of these things are the most important to be able to, what do we want to share with our private equity firm, for example? What would they care about? Like what are the things that are business transformational versus nice to have in your day-to-day job? And so we've spent quite a bit of time in the last several weeks sort of championing a mindset within the company about AI, and then how we're going to manage it. And the other thing is being sensitive to the fact that not everyone wants to adopt AI and things that AI is capable of. So we're actually going to do a quick pulse survey of our employees just to see, like, how are they feeling about this initiative? Do they feel like we're handling it the right way? Or are they feeling like we're trying to like push it on them and different things? So a lot of cross-functional meetings about that, and a few more coming up this week. We're going to start to look at, there are some processes that cross departments or information that I need from other people and so forth. And some of them seem really, really tedious and manual. And I just said to one of the CEOs yesterday, there's got to be a better way. So we're going to have some internal cross-functional meetings next week to bring some people together to look at things through a different lens see if we can apply some AI magic.
Yeah, great snapshot for us. Thank you for that. Before we want to bring it back to our traditional finance leaders and just understand better, what are the numbers that matter most on a given week? What are the numbers you're paying attention to? What are those metrics or measurements?
So every finance leader is going to tell you, things about recurring revenue and churn and net recurring revenue and things like that. We're trying to dial in on things. The clinical trial space is a little tricky. It's not like a traditional SaaS company where you sign a contract and it's 12 months and it's fairly, you can kind of recognize the revenue over those 12 months. Clinical trials, while you may have a master agreement, there may be an enterprise license associated with that. We in particular have a usage-based component to our invoicing, and that fluctuates quite a bit. So one of the things that we're working together closely with our operations team on is, are there any predictive indicators that are going to tell me what this usage-based number is going to look like? And so we have kind of zeroed in on scheduled patient visits. So if is that tracking to how's that translating into revenue. It's becoming a pretty good indicator of if I know where my scheduled visits are, how that portion of my revenue is going to come out. The other thing is measuring, not just measuring what our ACV is. That's great. It's a great sales target, but did we get that revenue in a year? So we've done a lot of work right now, albeit in Excel, which we're going to fix, to look at how are we getting that first year revenue, that ACV in a year? What are our times to implementation? How long is it taking us to get a study up and running? And then we have to be very attuned to when studies are starting and stopping, because that can affect your revenue as well. So we have some different types of metrics in the clinical research software space and some of the traditional ones that you would normally see. But all of those things affect, our forecasting, our revenue recognition. And so we're trying to really dial in on some of those metrics as well.
Nice. Thank you for that. We are up to what we like to refer to as our finance strategic moment, and we can take a break here if you like. I will edit. But again, this is where we're just looking for one moment of insight that you've experienced along the way, and it might be related to a big transaction. It might be just some subtle change you made as you adopted a leadership style, whatever it might be.
I will tell you what it was for me. Going back to that kind of .com phase of my life, that was a big pivot from working for a big company to jumping into really kind of the startup world. And that for me was a turning point in my career, which has really led me to where I am today. I think everyone, if given the opportunity, benefits from working for a big company. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to know this is how we wash our clothes. It's a very structured sort of environment. And a lot of people would think it's safer. I'm going to work for a big company. I'm going to work here forever. Well, we all know that that's not necessarily true, but I had a great boss there, a mentor, who recognized that I was going to get stuck there, like that I wasn't going to be able to go where I thought I wanted to go. And he actually told me, you've got to go to grow. So if you don't go and you stay here in this little safe world, you're not going to get where you hope to be. So I had an opportunity to take an accounting manager job. And the company, I worked for a company that had thousands of employees. This had like 100 employees. I was in the library, if you can imagine, researching this company, researching this space, this technology space. It was a cloud software company, which was pretty new at the time. So I jumped in to that company, and really, like, from there, it changed everything for me. That job and that CEO, that company was sold, led me to the next company I worked for. That led me to the next company I worked for. And then I made the personal decision to move. I was on the West Coast at that time, to move back to the East Coast, wondering what in the heck am I going to do? I live in the Philadelphia area. It's very pharma-centric. Well, maybe I can go work for a pharma company in accounting or whatever. And somehow, and I don't even remember exactly how I found Boomi. So just continued my SaaS software, recurring revenue, all the way from the very beginning. And I love the journey of a growth company. Now, I don't want to go back to one where the owner's grandmother's funding the company, but and I'd prefer not to have to go out and do any, big fundraising anymore, which is nice, kind of working for private equity. But that pivot to, a startup company, and and software and SaaS, is really what led me to where I am today. And just fortunate, ability. I kind of put myself out of a job here and again, when you go through a transaction, but I've always been able to find myself in the next right opportunity. So very, very fortunate.
Well, thank you for that. We springboarding off of that. You are now, we can say, you have a multi-chapter CFO career. You've been CFO multiple times. And we know that when you first arrived there, and again, we're cross-examining CFOs these days about the first 100 days and the first 80 days. You've done it a few times now. What are there myths? Are there things to be avoided? Things that those books with the same title
Yeah.
didn't tell you? When you step into a role, what's usually your criteria, your hit list? Let's say.
Yeah, I do think it is good to have kind of a 90-day plan-ish. And often that comes with the benefit of a private equity firm, often who's just bought a company, is that they pretty much have it for you because they've already done all the due diligence that they need to do. But really, it is an assessment of you've already committed to the company, and I all of the companies I've worked for, I've had a great deal of passion for. I don't think I've ever had like just a job. So we've already decided that we want to be here. Assessing the team, assessing the tools, assessing is not the right word, but getting to know your business partners is key. Because I don't know what their perception is of finance. Actually in both of these companies was the CRIO and Greenphire, the first CFO. So for a leadership team that, was part of the earlier stage, many of them have been there quite a while. Yep. You have to establish trust with them. That's a really big deal. And, so I would say, establishing trust with the organization and your team, making those assessments, trying to put together a plan of what you need to do in those next,
Yep.
90 days towards the rest of the year are key.
One of the things you shared up front with us, I have to circle back to because we usually have a question on CEO, CFO chemistry. Two CEOs. Now that takes us a whole new chemistry lesson. What would you, can you reflect on that a little bit? Is it unique and interesting? And
it is unique. And, I have to admit that at first I was a little hesitant as to how that was going to work. But the two of them really, it works wonderfully. The founder is definitely really, really on the technology product innovation. He is, AI forward, just so passionate about the product. And again, like he was a clinical site owner, so he's been driving this business. And then our other CEO is, very, very operational, has his hands on the pulse of the business as well, for, sales and marketing and operations, and of course, finance as well. And so we work really, really well together. I think that everyone complements each other really nicely. And I try really hard to make sure that I keep them both informed, because I might be having some conversations with one about something and then the other one. So I'm not always together with both of them, but actually not super frequently, just because of the nature of how we work. But I think I'm a little bit sometimes of the glue of the communication, and not only just with them, but with the PE firm as well. I benefit from the fact that I worked with this PE company before, so I can be a little bit of the PE firm whisperer, as we're kind of working through things, but it works surprisingly well.
We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side for us. Something many of your colleagues might not know about you, something from way back, something from the dot-com era, don't know, an interest that you have. It's just interesting.
I've got, I thought about this yesterday when I knew I was going to talk to you. And one thing that probably no one would know is that I absolutely hated accounting. So I went into accounting in college because a good friend of mine was going to the same college, and we thought, hey, we'll just do this accounting thing. And by sophomore year, he had veered off into computer science, and I was like, well, I'm okay at this. I'll just kind of stick this out. By the point, I took a lot of every elective that I could take was actually in criminal justice. And I really thought it would be cool to be a forensic accountant for the FBI. So that was like where I thought I was going to head. Because being an auditor or being in accounting, I was like, oh my goodness. So I actually did follow through with talking to the FBI, and they informed me that when I got, you still have to go through like their boot camp and all of that, that I had to agree for them to send me anywhere in the world that they wanted to send me. Now, at the time I was living in Southern California, and I was, in my 20s. So that wasn't really all that appealing. So I shifted gears. And when I got out of college and before I had gone on my FBI journey, because I really was not a huge fan of accounting, didn't want to go to work for an audit firm. I was like, I'll try getting a job in accounting, see if I like it. And so I went to work for a car dealership.
Huh.
And instead of accounting, they talked me into actually being a salesman for their car dealership. They had never hired a female before. The guy was like, we think it would be really great. So in the year between college and pursuing my FBI aspirations, I sold cars for a living.
Wow.
So talk about a pivot. But that was also a very good experience. But when I finally got to California, decided I wasn't going to work for the FBI. I'd gone to college for accounting. I thought maybe I should try this. And I was very nervous. I went to work and took like the lowest level accounting job that I could, just because I wanted to feel like I was going to be successfit's in it. And that was really the beginning of the whole journey. But there was my little side quest.
Wow,
there.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Who knew? It's quite an early chapter. We are up to our final question, Sue, and thank you so much. And I want to point out that you have an earlier podcast which covers those earlier years, perhaps a little more closely than this latest episode. But we had so much to cover. But we want to spend the last minutes with you by asking you to look forward, and we're interested in your priorities as a CFO for the coming 12 months. What would those be?
Yep. So we are actually definitely, because of AI and things that it can do, we have a tremendous amount of focus right now on what our NetSuite platform can do with the AI and the tools that we already have at our disposal. So one of the reasons, just to kind of give some context, that I brought NetSuite into CRIO was because of my experience with it in the past. So this is the fifth time that I've implemented NetSuite, and I have a great deal of awareness of what it's capable of. And the tools that the integrations that it is able to accommodate with some of our other tools within the business. So it has allowed me to kind of get all of my data and information centralized. We are going to be leveraging the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. We are getting ready to do some things with the Claude AI connector in NetSuite. We've enabled it to allow our customers to be self-service for information related to their invoicing and payments and things like that. There's quite a list of things that we want to do to leverage AI within the NetSuite platform and within the other systems that we can integrate into the NetSuite platform. So that's a big focus for us. The other big one is documentation. And I think that we can leverage AI quite a bit to, we've got a small team. I've got some single points of failure. We want to make sure that we have, those policies and procedures and documentation so that anybody can kind of pick them up, and AI will be a great help for that as well. So,
Sue Vestri, thank you for joining us at Sweet Connect here in New York. Thank you for joining us on CFO Quality.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Jack.